Hey there.
Hey. Hi, Robert.
Hey, Judy.
Judy Nathan's here.
Robert Winters. And welcome to another edition, another exciting edition of Cambridge Inside Out.
Yes, pre-election.
Pre-election, that's right. And actually, I think, might as well sort of give the information about that. This is Tuesday, October 27th.
Yes.
Year of our Lord 2015, and in 1 week, 7 whole days from now,
that's right,
will be the Cambridge municipal election, the biennial municipal election. Polls will be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are 34 precincts in the city. I think some of them actually double up, have multiple precincts in a single building, but they're 30 such locations at least.
And how would people find those if they don't know where?
You can go to the Election Commission website, and you just Google it. It's pretty easy to come to that. You probably also, actually, come to think of it, I haven't gotten my postcard in the mail. In past years, you'd always get this nice, handy-dandy little postcard with a map saying where your precinct location
That's
is.
true. Maybe they're trying to save some money.
Well, either that or it's going to show up in the mail tomorrow.
Well, right. They don't want to do too far because people just throw it out.
It'd be much nicer getting that than what I got yesterday, which was my real estate tax bill.
Oh, that's what that is in my...
Yeah. I know, actually, it's terrible. It's like I was in denial. I looked at it and I sort of laid it down on the desk, walked away, came back, ate dinner, came back, picked it up. Oh, okay, opened it up. So anyway, about $200 increase for the year. That's not going to kill me.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's sent out before the election.
It's just the way it works. That they do they take the necessary votes in early October, and then as soon as they can ship out the bills, they ship out the bills.
Huh.
Yeah. So anyway, so maybe there'll be a postcard when I get home today. We'll see.
Maybe. Yeah.
So anyway, that's it. Now, I think next week, we're not sure yet whether we're doing this show next week.
Because you will be...
Well, yeah, it'll a long day because starting at 8 o'clock, apparently, as soon as the polls close, we'll be doing live.
Not me, but
that's
your
right.
old partner, Susanna.
Susanna Sagat, former school committee member. Susanna Sagat and I will again, for the third time running now, do the live election broadcasting from the Senior Center.
Right.
Probably should suggest, if you're interested in seeing this really live.
Can you go there?
Yeah, you absolutely can go to the Senior Center. It's not the best. It's not like the old Longfellow School days when they did the count where it was a lot of room to move and whatnot. It's a little packed in there at times, but people can come and it's kind of a coming together of people from all walks of life, and it's kind of good. I don't get to hang with people as much because I'm too busy being TV.
Sometimes though you have people come on and talk.
Yes, actually we do
some
that.
Of the candidates, right?
Yeah, actually one of the really nice things is that we get this whole group of people from CCTV are out there kind of finding people, saying, hey, you come on in the air.
So they do it. Yeah, well, that makes sense because you're on the air, right? Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, like right here, we've got microphones right in front of us, but at the election night, we've got like wires on us.
I might try. I'm gonna come by and badger you. I could go like this to you and Susanna.
That would work. I'm all for that.
So maybe, I don't know if now, but maybe later you could talk about the new thing they're going to do with showing the transfer votes.
Yeah, actually, I might as well say right now.
Because that, to me, I read that and I thought, wow.
Yeah, I was kind of thrilled.
Your idea, huh?
Well, not just my idea. There are other people who have advocated for it as well. But when we used to do the paper ballots back in the old Longfellow days from 1941 through 1995.
Okay, 95. Yes, I remember the paper ballots.
Oh, it was great fun, and I lived directly across the street, so it was great.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I could actually watch the count from my front room.
Right.
And the only person in the city. And that's probably why I'm interested in this stuff.
Huh.
Just luck of the draw.
Wow.
Anyway, when they went to the computerized count, I had hoped they would retain some of the old traditions. Because it was kind of a gathering. There were ladies selling baked goods in the in the front, and former election commissioner Ed Samp would sometimes be a piano over the edge of the Longfellow School auditorium, and he would just entertain people playing the piano. It was great. It was like a 3-ring circus, and it lasted for days. And some of that was lost. Most of the candidates were pretty glad not to have to go through the suffering of many days waiting. So
but on the paper it took longer though, didn't it?
It took a lot longer. So with the computerized count, it was just boom, and it's done. It takes about a second to tabulate all the ballots.
But then it's just preliminary, because that's the other thing I learned from reading this.
So the way it works now is there are certain ballots, like any absentee ballots are actually scanned in during the day on election day. So they will be included in the preliminary results that
not that night.
Happen on Tuesday.
No,
they'll be included on Tuesday.
Okay.
And then, but the thing is, that's not all ballots. If there's any write-in ballots, and honestly, even if they're ballots that are sort of, there's somebody just jokingly puts.
That's right. Those are pulled aside.
Yeah. Even if you vote.
Intent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The first year they actually just scanned them in, and it was just write-in number one, and as though it was a person, right? Because normally the write-in candidate doesn't amount to anything. Of course. Back in 2009, Marjorie Decker ran as a write-in candidate and was elected. So it mattered a lot that year.
Oh, right, because she hadn't made the cutoff or something.
Yeah. So on Tuesday night, none of the ballots that had Marjorie's name on it were counted. So they announced preliminary results that had no meaning whatsoever.
Wow. Yeah.
But for the most part, the preliminary results, and I want to be clear about the terminology here. We use the term preliminary results. For the Tuesday night, which do not include write-ins or ballots which couldn't be read for whatever reason. Maybe the ballot got a little wet because it was a rainy day or something, and the scanner wouldn't take it in. So anything that needs to be looked at first, and it happens on Wednesday. They spend most of the day Wednesday, or at least we expect as much.
Okay.
And then by the end of the day on Wednesday, they will then run the tabulation software again. And the results then will be announced, and they will be referred to as the unofficial results.
Okay, and that is by Wednesday night?
We expect it by Wednesday night, but it's basically whenever it's done.
And where is that done?
That's also done in the senior center.
So people are still hanging out there?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to say that Wednesday.
Do they sleep over?
No, they don't.
They're not allowed there.
No, there are police officers guarding the ballots overnight, though.
Oh, they're kept there.
Oh, they're kept there. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
But of course, it's the data files at that point that are the main thing, except for the auxiliary ballots, which are the ones that need to be looked at on Wednesday. Yeah, so then they'll be tabulated, or they'll be thrown into the mix with the rest of them, and then they'll run the election software one more time on that Wednesday, and they'll announce the unofficial results. Now, why is it called unofficial? Well, there's a federal law that says you have to allow for 10 additional days for any possible overseas absentee ballots, typically from military people.
Okay.
For municipal elections, it sort of doesn't happen that you get many or any. I think there may be some ballots that are provisional ballots that may have been challenged for whatever reason, that they will adjudicate on 10 days afterwards, which is Friday the 13th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is a provisional meaning maybe somebody was in the wrong ward or?
Exactly. That's typically what it is somebody says, well, I moved, and they
don't have my name here, but
so they say, well, we'll let you do this, but you'll have to sign it. We got to put it in an envelope, and then we'll deal with it later.
Okay.
So there's a handful of those possible.
Okay.
I think in the last election there were maybe 7 or something.
Wow, 7.
That can make a difference.
Yeah,
in a close election.
Right.
So if it's a very close election, then the results won't be fully known until November 13th. But the likelihood of having it be that close is relatively small, and the likelihood that a handful of extra ballots are going to tip it is small. So whatever happens. Usually what's announced on Tuesday is pretty close to what happens on Wednesday. And then what happens on Wednesday almost can't change except for a ballot or two.
Was that true for 2013?
Yeah. I mean, there was a few extra ballots thrown in, which changed the Leland Chung surplus and resulted in, actually, excuse me, and that was right, because that was, and then everything changed again when there was a recount. And hopefully
there was a recount because of the closeness. And Minka asked for that,
right? She suggested it because it was an extremely close election.
Right.
And a recount's a very expensive proposition. It takes up to a couple of weeks.
Who pays for the candidate has to pay for that?
No, the taxpayers.
And you are given a recount if there's a certain amount of votes.
The election commission you petition the election commission.
Okay.
And the election, they don't want to hear about it because nobody loves recounts.
Right.
But if a candidate can petition, that doesn't mean the election commission has to say yes. So in other words, if a candidate loses in the first count because he only had 34 votes total, and it took 1,700 votes to get elected, nobody's going to grant anybody a recount.
Right.
But they could say, well, I challenge that and take you to court, and then the court would then adjudicate. But the likelihood that something like that would ever happen is like virtually zero.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how it'll go. Oh yeah, but the thing we mentioned about the presentation.
Oh right, yeah,
which is sort of how we got off here.
Right.
I'm the king of tangents here.
Yeah, that's well. Hey.
What happened? What we showed on the program last week. I was just trying to illustrate how the runoffs, the series of runoffs.
Should we see that again, or no?
We could, but I think just to sort of give the notion of it here. And actually, by the way, if you just click on InsideOut.
Or that's right. That's
which is right there, and it says materials right at the top. I actually put a link
for that today's date, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Do that. Right. So anyway, the graphics that I showed last week are actually going to be pretty much similar to what they're actually going to do with the count. What I don't know yet is whether they're going to just announce the preliminary winners and then show how they got there by putting up these bar graphs.
Yeah.
We did it last week where the bar graphs were going vertically.
Right.
Right. I think the latest plan is that they will be horizontal, so it'll look like a horse race.
Right, but you don't know if they're going to actually doing it live.
I don't know what they're going to do. It would be my preference if
that would be harder, wouldn't it?
Not really, because I think the person who's doing this wrote a little program that'll take the election data, the results, and just boom, produce the graphs.
They will use horizontal bar. Yeah, very similar.
So then what you'll do is you'll see these graphs sort of showing who's ahead. And then they could click it and go to the next round, pause briefly, go to the next round, pause briefly, and then, it'd take all of 2 minutes to go through them all. And then a few people would probably have heart attacks. But
they'll see that
people would see, the whole thing progress all the way to the very last, or the next to last round, which is really the one when all the real. That's when everything's really determined. The very last round is just to fill in the bundles. That's it.
Well, that's going to be nice and different.
Yeah, so we'll see exactly what protocol they follow, but the fact that they're doing it and they're going to project it, it's going to that's a really great improvement and will really help. And then it'll be, I believe they're going to, because the files will all be generated, they'll be able to just put them up on the city website. CCD probably should pick them up too, so maybe, instead of watching the election hosts, you'll be able to actually watch some of that as well, and I think that would be a really great improvement.
Okay.
All right.
So now, do you actually want to talk about the ballots or look at them?
Actually, why don't we do that? We
so
can
now,
see that
let me first go to where it is here. Is it?
Yeah, so down there.
Oh, there it is. Let's do the city council first.
Yeah, why not? Okay.
All right.
So just so you get a little bit of a sense about what these.
We're gonna get this on the computer, and then we're gonna. Yeah, it's taken a while.
Oh yeah, because it's an external link going to a city website. Oh, yeah, I see. I should have just downloaded it.
I did put it on a smart drive, which we were gonna try out.
Here it is. Here it is.
There it is.
Now I'm gonna try this. So we just go like this.
Swipe it. No.
We go swipe. All right. It doesn't like my fingers, I think.
Wait. First we have to do there.
Oh, okay.
Then we do that.
And then we do that.
There you go.
There we go.
All right.
So this, my friends and neighbors, is what a city council ballot will look like. It's probably worth noting that because there are 23 candidates on the ballot, there are 23, then there will be 23 different ballot styles. The law requires what we call the barrel roll, so that each candidate should appear at the top of the ballot on a more or less equal number of ballots that are printed and made available at each of the election precincts.
So the order is different.
Well, it'll always be in alphabetical order, but in cyclic alphabetical order.
Starts with the next one.
So after James Williamson, you go right back over to Dennis Benzan, etc.
Right.
The specimen ballot that they show up on the website is sort of the default one. It's the same that the absentee ballot people get. It's just purely alphabetical. And there is a little bit of an advantage in the alphabeticals. Oftentimes a lazy voter might give a number 1 to a candidate, and if they don't really care about others, they might just put 2s and 3s, etc. alphabetically. So if you were assembling a slate of candidates, I don't think it's a big factor, but if
you wouldn't want that.
Well, if it gave you, if you could score an extra 5 or 6 or 7 ballots for a candidate just by alphabetical bias, you might actually do that. But what you see on this ballot sample here is that there are There are 23 candidates plus room, though you can't see the very bottom here, but you don't need to, for up to 9 write-ins. In my experience, you never see more than about 2 write-ins, so it's absurd that the Secretary of State requires that we have to have 9 write-in lines. But that's what we have to live with. And so what you do is you fill in the bubble for your number 1.
So here, this is number 1.
Number
right?
1. Well, or for any of the candidates.
For any of them. So let's say, I'm just arbitrarily, okay, we got number 1 for
one
Jan.
can, and then you give
we'd go
to number 2.
But it might be somebody completely different.
It would have to be somebody completely different.
Okay, so then you go number 2 maybe for Mark McGovern.
Exactly, and
so
then
you'd
you
be
go
going
3.
really up and down.
The basic thing is that, and I always say this to people, you should decide on who you find acceptable and then rank those you find acceptable. So if you only find 9 of them to be acceptable or 3 of them to be acceptable, you'll rank 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I see.
And in the end, you should never have more than 1 bubble, filled-in bubble per column, nor 1 per line.
Because otherwise, then it's. What if somebody did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 for 1 person? Would they count the 1 vote?
Then what's supposed to happen, and I believe happens, is that there's in the firmware within the scanners, it detects that and it kicks the ballot back out,
to be looked
and the election worker hands it back to the voter and says, "Excuse me, I'm not going to look at your ballot unless you want me to."
It's done right at the moment. Oh,
yes,
that makes sense.
And you have overvoted this candidate.
Yes.
It's a vertical, that would be called a horizontal overvote. Or if you gave a number 1 to 2 different candidates, it would be called a vertical overvote.
Or gave a 1 to all of them.
Right, and if for the last 2 or 3 election cycles, such a ballot would be given back to the voter.
Okay.
And well, it would be just to show the voter, and then it would be marked as void and another ballot given to the voter.
And what if they said, that's the way I want to do it?
Then there's an override mechanism, and it would become an auxiliary ballot that would be viewed on Wednesday along with the write-ins.
And decided if it's valid or not. Very interesting. Okay.
So you have to discern voter intent. Ultimately, that's the important thing.
So the machine actually spits it out to the election worker.
Right.
Okay.
So let's see.
What'd you just
Help me
do?
out. Oh no, I thought it would just switch back to us for a second.
Okay, we can switch back.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
I don't know, how do we do that? We just do it like that. Yeah. Did that.
There
Okay.
we go.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah. I'm
All right. So then
I'm a total tech guy in some ways and a complete Luddite in others.
Well, because you got all the facts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So it does. That's very interesting. Do we want to look at?
We could also look at the
school committee.
If
all right. So that means I have to
pitch
go
your way over to there. Right. Again, the city council ballot has 23 candidates and space for 9 write-ins because there are 9 seats to be filled. Right.
Let me see. I'm gotta.
All right.
Well, you see, I need to get back. Oh, I know. Here it is. The little X's. There we go. All right.
Yeah, you can just
lose
lose
get rid
that.
of that one.
These dang computers.
Yeah, no, I worked the Macs, but I just, so now we're gonna,
go back
do we want to go back
yeah,
to
let's go take a look, we'll check out the school committee ballot now.
I know, this is the school committee, let me move it up a little so you
All right,
can
so the
see
school committee ballot, as you see here, is a shorter ballot.
Yes.
There are separate papers for each, that's part of the law. So every voter will be given 2 sheets of paper.
Right.
This one here, as you see, there are 11 candidates for school committee. And again, this is the default ballot that the absentee voters would see. That's in pure alphabetical order, otherwise it's in cyclic alphabetical order, and there's space for up to 6 write-ins, though as a practical matter, I've never seen more than a couple. But that's how that goes. And the same rules apply. You can give a ranking you could rank all 11, or you could just rank 1 or 2 or 3 if that's your choice.
Okay.
Alrighty?
All right, so we're gonna go back to us.
See, it still doesn't like me. There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. So I think there were a couple of items that probably should be at least mentioned.
Yes, regarding status.
Yeah, I mean, on the city council race, there are 23 candidates on the ballot, but one candidate, John Sanzone, was some sort of trouble reported in the Chronicle, and as a result of that, though he was actually on the verge of switching from one slate to another, it would have been a very big story. Right. Instead, because of some other matters, he dropped out of the race entirely. So there are, you could still vote for him, of course, but he has announced that he's withdrawn from the race. So for all intents and purposes, there are really 22 candidates, though.
So in that instance, say some people say, I still want him as my number one, it's a protest vote, and then they still do number two to someone else. Would that one vote go to his number?
It would go to him. He's still a viable candidate.
No, I know, but then if would those votes be counted? And then he's out of the election.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Right, but then would those his one votes would go to somebody's second choice?
They would be transferred.
That's what I meant. They would still be part of the transfer.
Absolutely. When you got to the point where he would be formally defeated, then all of his ballots would be looked at by the computer and then transferred to next available preference.
Right.
And so some candidates may have been elected by then, so they cannot receive votes.
Right.
Some candidates may have been defeated by then, so they cannot receive votes.
But it would count somewhere.
It absolutely would still count.
Okay.
So
I'm not telling you.
There's no harm
just
done.
Saying that people may do
absolutely
that.
no harm done. So as I say, there are technically 23, but you might argue that therefore there are just 22.
Right.
All right. So that's sort of the main stuff. And I'm trying to think if there are any other particular things that are very election specific.
Well, we'll mention it again, but the last city council forum is tomorrow, Thursday night.
Yeah.
At the senior center.
Yeah, this is a very, very busy time of year.
Right.
And,
I mean, if you want to see them live, of course, you can see past forums on CCTV.
CCTV recorded most or all of them, so they did a great job.
But look at their schedule.
Yeah, and they were running. They've been sort of cycling through them, and I think right up through Monday night, I think you'll still be playing. I don't believe they run any on election day. That's kind of the tradition.
Right.
There are other things I think that are probably at least worth noting a bit here. I think, was it last week, we talked at some length about the mechanics of PR elections and all of these things, and we talked a lot about candidate slates. Right. So some of the slates have sort of been modified because of one candidate withdrawing from the race, but there's still these slates, and there's still organizations promoting the various candidates. And I want to warn everybody out there: you're about to get inundated by robocalls this week. And I hope
I don't answer those. I mean, I don't recognize the number.
I mean, I just hope people are fair and not just trying to be alarmist about it. But I think it's going to be one of the realities.
And lots of
this
mail
coming
too.
week.
Lots of
a lot of mail, but I think it's actually cheaper to do robocalls.
Really?
And you can't.
You have to have a landline.
You have to. Yeah, I guess that's true too. But they're going to try. But there's one aspect about candidate slates that I actually didn't mention last week that I think would be relevant to point out, because it's something that really, really peaks right around now, which is that if you have different factions competing, whether it was the pro-rent control, anti-rent control, or the CCA versus independents, or now there's these various slates sort of competing, the overarching issue is how many seats do you pick up? Right. So, for example, amongst these unity slate people, will they get 6 or 7 seats? They have 7 now. Right. Will they lose one? Will the Residents Alliance group, will they stick with 2, or will it grow, or will it shrink, or will somebody else who's on neither slate get in there? But the more interesting, really competitive aspect, actually, in a way that's almost paradoxical, is actually within the slate. Just to give a little bit of an example, with the group that's endorsed by the Cambridge Residents Alliance, they endorse 5. They probably can hope for, certainly they'd want to retain 2 seats.
Well, there's 2 incumbents on
2 incumbents, and then they'd love to get a 3rd. The likelihood of getting more than that's kind of small, but could happen. Yeah. So if you got 5 candidates on a slate, and arguably 4 of them are at least viable, then you're trying to fight over 2 seats or 3. Then if you think about it, the real competition, the most serious competition, is actually in the closing days, really among people within a slate, where they're saying, well, who's going to be the ones who get in? It's not always so kind and nice. Back in the days of the Cambridge Civic Association, it was a requirement. If you were endorsed by them, you actually had to list the entire slate on all your literature. But I'm already getting literature now. Maybe I'll just avoid mentioning the name here. But there's one candidate who's on that particular slate who says, please give me your number 1 vote on November 3rd, and give your number 2 and number 3 votes to 2 specific people,
that
and
are
then
not on the council right now.
He leaves out
Yes.
two of the people
Well,
on the slate.
to me, that seems strange.
It's a little strange, and it's something you would never have seen happen with the CCA. That would have been considered absolutely forbidden.
I
but
wonder if there's been something going on.
I'm sure there is something going on, but ultimately people do want to make sure they get in, and if they are to be joined by other people within that constituency, they'd rather have the people that they really want. So a little bit of this is starting to happen, you know, and it's always happened. I mean, I remember in the days of the CCA, they had whispering campaigns where, you know, the word was, well, we're endorsing 7, we're going to get 5 seats, so who do we really want?
Sounds, well, it's probably no different than any other kind of system.
People put their heart and soul into political campaigns, and nowadays especially, a lot of money.
Yes, money. And maybe we could talk about it in the next segment.
We can talk a little bit about money in the next one.
I was actually interested in that.
We can definitely do that. But, you know, you put a lot into it, and then in the closing days, it's all on the line. And at that point, you know, you don't want to just sort of let it slide.
Right.
So, you know, that's what I'm, you know, as the ancient observer, this is one of those things that I tend to focus on quite a bit in the closing days of an election.
Well,
so
that's great. So we are going to be closing out this segment. Yes.
Yeah, we're wrapping up in like
a few seconds. There's more to come. And maybe we'll show a brochure about PR, although the ballot does talk about it. But let's do that. And,
so anyway, until then, this is another edition of Cambridge Inside Out.
Robert Winters, Judy Nathans.